Right now on Upfront.
The investigation.
Someplace that was meant to be safe wasn't.
A 15-year-old Madison student accused in a deadly school shooting. Panic and chaos just days from Christmas. A community in mourning. And now the questions.
It is absolutely none of y'all's business who was harmed in this incident.
This Sunday, Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes.
We're asking anyone who knew her to please contact the Madison Area Crime Stoppers.
With us on the latest in the investigation, what's next, and his message to the community.
Then Attorney General Josh Kaul on the state's role, his push for more state funding for school safety, and his reaction.
The Attorney General should be ashamed of himself.
To one of the former Trump allies he's charged after the 2020 election.
Then the lawsuit. President-elect Donald Trump suing pollster Ann Seltzer and the Des Moines Register. Marquette Law School poll director Charles Franklin is here. The potential impact, plus his final nationwide poll just out.
And budget battle, the line's already drawn. J.R. Ross, editor of WisPolitics.com, and his new reporting as the battle heats up.
This is Upfront with Jaron Jordan and political director Matt Smith.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. It'll be 1 week tomorrow since the deadly school shooting in Madison, and this weekend, that intensifying investigation now behind the scenes.
Police say 15-year-old Natalie Rupnow shot and killed a teacher and a student at Abundant Life Christian School and injured several others. Funeral services were held yesterday for 14-year-old Ruby Vergara. 42-year-old Erin West was the school's substitute coordinator and in-building substitute teacher. She'll be laid to rest tomorrow.
The investigation is now being led by Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes, and he joins us now. Chief, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
I want to first begin with, as we sit here today, what is the main focus of your investigation right now?
The main focus of our investigation is to put together a timeline of when this decision was made to walk into a school with weapons and fire that weapon. Many people have been asking me, and well, we won't know that fully until the investigation is complete, if we know it at all. But we're committed to putting together a timeline so we can determine what was going through her mind and who she may have been in contact with prior to leading up to this tragic event.
When did you become aware of this connection between the 15-year-old shooter there in Madison and this 20-year-old California man who was allegedly planning on attacking a government building?
Well, we were aware that there had been some social media activity very early on. Some of our friends, the FBI, had offered to do some analysis for us. But, you know, the term relationship and friendship means something different to young people when they're online. So it's just determining the strength of that relationship and if there was an influence there or not.
Have you seen any of the communications or messages between the two?
I have not. The case file remains locked with those investigators on a need-to-know basis. I do get briefed on it periodically, but no, I have not physically seen those myself.
Will you or have you spoken with that 20-year-old man in California, or do you plan to?
No, our partners with the FBI and in cooperation with our detectives and the officers out there, I believe in San Diego, have been in contact with each other. Right now, he's under a hold so that will delay us talking to him.
Chief, you have said that there were 2 guns recovered at the school, and you believe just one was used. Have you been successfully able to trace those firearms?
Those firearms have been traced from our partners with the ATF. They did an emergency trace for us and was able to get that information back. I'm not going to reveal what we discovered because it is part of the case file. And if someone is charged at some point, there are some things that we must do. And one of that is ensure that everyone can get a fair trial and that the information is not released. There are victims, a lot of victims in this case. Most of them are juvenile. So we're taking some direction from our district attorney, making sure that if we do decide to levy charges, or if they do decide to levy charges, that we have a case that will be successful in prosecuting.
Are you referring to the parents in those comments?
We're referring to anyone who may have been involved, who may have had some effort in creating this or some part in it. We're looking at all aspects of this particular incident.
Are either of the parents in police custody at this moment?
No parents are in police custody, and both parents cooperated fully. The last time we spoke with was, I believe, Monday night, and that was a voluntary conversation.
Is there a scenario where they could face charges, either of the parents?
Well, there are laws regarding weapons and firearms and children, but I'm not prepared to say whether or not they have violated any of those.
Do you know whether the 15-year-old or how she got a hold of the guns? Do you personally know at this moment?
I know that that is part of our investigation, and so we're not going to release that information at this time.
And do you know where they were purchased, the guns, and whether they were purchased legally?
We believe that the weapons were purchased legally, but I won't say any more than that regarding the trajectory of those weapons.
Any more information on this reported manifesto that you mentioned earlier this past week? Anything about that manifesto and anything about the shooter's reported obsession with school shootings?
We want to make sure that we can fully authenticate that as her writing. And so part of that is the analysis to see if we can find the origin of that document. Is that something that was copied and pasted? Does it appear somewhere? Does it appear on the dark web? Is that something that she perhaps posted, reposted, if you will, or rewrote? I don't know. And so we want to make sure that we can answer these questions definitively. I know people want to know why this happened. I just ask for some patience as we try to comb through all of this information.
Chief, as a police chief and a former educator, have you had a moment to just step back and reflect on the fact that a 15-year-old is believed to have walked in this school carrying 2 guns and started opening fire?
I reflect every night, working on about 3 or 4 hours of sleep a night. Before I go to bed, I reflect on that. I know that as a public school, there's like a parental spirit within your body that you want to protect your children. And so your students, I said children, but I meant students because they feel like your children. And so just reflecting on that, not only as a teacher, former teacher, but as a parent of a 15-year-old son. I had to explain to him why I was working late, why I was on the television, and what had happened. And he could not wrap his mind around how someone in his age group could hurt people. And so we're dealing with a lot now, but our community is certainly coming together to wrap their arms around everyone involved. And that actually includes the police department and our first responders.
An incredibly tough week and another tough week ahead. Madison Police Chief Sean Barnes. Chief, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
This weekend, the Wisconsin Department of Justice is assisting in the response, specifically the DOJ's Office of School Safety. It comes as the Justice Department is asking state lawmakers for more than $2 million to keep the program operational. And with that, Wisconsin Attorney General Josh Kaul joins us now. Attorney General, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So since the shooting, have you heard directly from Republican leaders or the governor about whether they'll continue funding the Office of School Safety?
You know, we have been in conversations that have been ongoing with various lawmakers about trying to keep that office funded. And, you know, we had legislation that was passed not too long ago that continues the funding through the end of September of next year. And I'm hopeful that we will see that same coalition come together to continue the funding. I know that some folks have made public statements indicating that they support its continuation. So we're hopeful. And, you know, the reason it's so critical is because of the importance of the services that office provides. That includes a 24/7 tip line that anybody can contact with information about school safety issues. It includes support for critical incident response teams when there are critical incidents. And it includes training that's provided to schools that can help keep schools safe, like behavioral threat assessment training. So I'm hopeful that we will see bipartisan support, but the legislative process, of course, won't happen until the budget process begins next year.
As you've noted, Madison Police is leading this investigation. There is now this connection, though, to this 20-year-old man in California. Because this now may involve multiple states, does that bring the DOJ into this at all even more?
Well, as you've said, the Madison Police Department is leading the investigation here, and I'm confident that they will do a full and thorough investigation. To the extent that the services of our Division of Criminal Investigation become important to this case, we are available to support Madison Police Department or to work in collaboration. But what ends up happening there will depend on the facts that are gathered and where the investigation ultimately leads.
As part of the Office of School Safety program, there's a tip line to report concerns. Did the DOJ receive any tips related to this specific shooter or this specific incident?
We're not going to speak to specifics as to this incident at this point. Again, it's an ongoing investigation. What I can say is that we received numerous tips through that tip line. There have been, I believe now, over 11,000 tips from around the state, and they've related to a number of different topics. Everything from concerns about vaping or bullying to concerns about planned school attacks, and making sure that that information gets to schools or to school resource officers can help allow for interventions before somebody goes down the pathway to violence that can lead to an incident like this.
Let's broaden out the conversation. I want to ask you about the case still ongoing involving former allies to President-elect Trump. There was just an initial court hearing several days ago. Jim Troupis, the former Trump attorney, says that you have charged the other day. He said you should be ashamed of yourself and called these charges purely political. I'm curious your response to him.
Well, first of all, this is a criminal case. We are going to litigate it in a court of law. That's where these disputes should be settled, and that's where this case will be resolved. Now, we approach every criminal case we handle based on the facts that are developed through investigation and then what the law indicates in that case. In this case, we have filed criminal charges, and ultimately, this case will go before a jury. And that's who will make the decision in this case.
Is this investigation still an open investigation?
The investigation continues. We, always work to continue gathering facts and information as cases proceed. But ultimately, like I said, any updates that we have will be through court filings in the case.
And so, do you anticipate any additional charges to be filed?
Again, just generally, we don't speak to the topic of whether we expect there to be additional charges because this is an ongoing case, and again, it will be one that we litigate in court and not in the court of public opinion.
Attorney General Josh Kaul, Attorney General, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Coming up, the lawsuit. President-elect Donald Trump suing a well-known Iowa pollster and the Des Moines Register. Charles Franklin is standing by with a potential impact and his final nationwide poll of 2024.